All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Under the Dome, the off-season edition. And boy, man, even when the Saints don't do anything, there's still Saints news. And we're not talking about the exciting extension or re-signing of Noah Spence, who most people don't even remember he was on the team last year because he was on IR all year. He tore his ACL during the spring sessions. Yeah, so Saints haven't done any real moves, but we have all kinds of rumors flying. We have the story that came out today that the Saints are looking to trade Malcolm Brown, which we talked about a little bit last week. That they're probably going to have to let him go one way or another to save cap money. He's 31 years old. I think they could save $5 million off the cap by trading him or releasing him. So, you've got that. You've got Drew Brees in Hawaii pushing a sled up the parking lot. Did you see this?
I did not.
Okay. Apparently, he's out there with Chase Daniel and some other people. And just like the ping pong story with Zach Strief, Chase Daniel must have smoked him pretty good pushing that sled up. So, with Breeze, he's so damn competitive. He's like, yeah, all right. Next thing you see him go all the way to the bottom of the hill and push it all the way back up at high speed to show he can still do it. And, they're filming. It's like, what the hell is he doing? He's shoving Instagram, and then he's got some ad for a compression sleeve. He's out there throwing footballs. And what's weird about it is, Breeze looks like he's got more hair now than he had during the season and last year. I don't know if he's doing the hair club for men. I don't know if he's doing the whole, Rogaine treatment, although it doesn't really Rogaine doesn't work for receding hairline, but he's doing something out there to make himself look younger. So, a lot of people out there going, is he really going to retire? I mean, he hasn't said he's going to retire. So is he really going to retire? Oh, yeah. And then Russell Wilson announces, I don't want to be traded, but if you want to trade me, there's only 4 teams I want to go to, and that's the Cowboys, the Bears, the Raiders, and the Saints. So, yeah, when that news broke, Ralph Marlboro posted a picture of Sean Payton answering the phone when Jameis calls and says, "New phone? Who's this? Who's this?" So yeah. So and then the mayor of the city, Mayor Cantrell, DeFure, out there, and the woman who killed Mardi Gras, is out there sending videos on Instagram or whatever saying that, oh yeah, come on down, Russell, you'll love coming down to New Orleans. We got music. No, we don't. We have parties. No, we don't. We got bars. We got restaurants. We got food. No, we don't. We don't have any of that stuff because she's still in phase 2.4 or 2.7, something like that. When the rest of the state's in phase 3, but not New Orleans. And they're riding around shutting down bars left and right. They shut down the Republic a couple of nights ago. So, Cantrell's out there pitching this. Then then the mayor of Seattle, when he's not watching the center of the city become Chad, and all the riots going on, he says, "Don't you take our Russell away from us. We ain't got nothing left but Chad." And people who still think the grunge music is relevant and riots and Antifa, that's all we got left out here. So anyway, so it's just gotten really crazy. So that's how this week's been going. How much have you had the opportunity to hear about it?
About
all this that was going on?
I catch a little bit here and there, but probably not nearly as much as what you get there, though.
Yeah.
I heard about the Mayor Cantrell reaching out to Russell and or making an overture to Russell, and their mayor getting pissed about it. But
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's all fun, but I thought tonight we could talk about the how legitimate are these rumors? What are the odds that we will actually get a guy like Russell Wilson? I mean, you look at it from the Seahawks point of view. Seattle, Russell Wilson was that team last year. And what you and I were talking about off the air, in the first half of the season to about week 8, Russell Wilson was all they had. Their defense was terrible. Jamal Adams was hurt. They couldn't stop the run. They had a terrible pass defense without Jamal Adams. So it was Russell Wilson basically willing this team to win ball games. And then after that, when Adams came back and they started to run the ball a little bit better, it seemed that, in fact, Russell Wilson was MVP candidate for a long time in that first half of the season.
To about the half.
Well, probably at least until Thanksgiving. He was still in the category of MVP candidate. And then you had that miracle game against the Cardinals where I think that was Seattle and Arizona. I'm pretty sure that was where they threw the Hail Murray, they call it. Yeah. And then, you watch the season progress. Aaron Rodgers is getting better. Aaron and the Seahawks and Russell Wilson are not doing as well. I think they managed to win the division. They won the division, didn't they?
I think
yes,
so.
They did, because they played in Seattle for the playoff game, so they had to win the division. I don't really follow the Seahawks. I'll be honest with you. But the point I'm saying is that, they win the division, but Seattle plays like crap against the Rams in the wild card round. They get defeated. So you're kind of left with the feeling that maybe Russell Wilson's kind of peaked a little bit with Seattle. So Seattle might be in a good position right now. If we can trade him with his value is very high, we can trade him, get picks, and rebuild this team. They've got cap problems too, but rebuild this team with younger players. Rebuild that offensive line that Russell Wilson's been bitching about so much. Rebuild that offensive line. Get a running back. Build this team kind of like how it was when they had Hasselbeck there.
Yeah.
Power running team, kind of more like a Pete Carroll kind of ball club. A lot of power offense playing in the elements like you play in Seattle. Great defense and power offense.
Well, I think that the rumor mill began because Russell Wilson was overheard to say it makes some sort of for him anyway, disparaging remarks about the direction that the team was going, and they had some sort of meeting that Russell was involved in, and it was so bad that he stormed out of the room. Yeah.
It's not to the level of Deshaun Watson.
No.
And because Russell Wilson's not like that either. And that's not his character. But he is clearly dissatisfied with the Seattle organization. So they have a choice, do things to make Russell happy. And that includes getting him a running game, getting him better offensive linemen, or send him somewhere. And that's why I think it's really interesting, these 4 teams he picked. Las Vegas and Dallas both make sense to me, because Las Vegas, for, it's new stadium, exciting city, not far from where he's from, the California, Seattle area, not far from an area he's familiar with. Dallas, of course, for the reputation of being America's team and the media hype, and he'll get much more attention there. Chicago's the odd one, only from the standpoint of I can see he would put him because they need a quarterback, but that's a coaching staff and a general manager who's on his last legs.
Yeah.
They need to hit a home run and make the playoffs and advance in the playoffs this year, or they're going to clean house. So the Saints, of course, he's admired Drew Brees. He knows Brees is retiring. The opportunity to work with an offensive mind like Sean Payton, who can do all sorts of things. There he's got a great offensive line. He would have Alvin Kamara as his running back. He'd have Michael Thomas to throw to. I mean, it's just a lot of opportunities for him. And then he gets to play against Tom Brady. He gets to do there's a lot of opportunity for him to be as successful as Drew was. And of course, It makes great sense here because, you would go from a Montana to a Steve Young kind of player here with Russell Wilson.
Yeah. I think of the four teams that Russ mentioned, the most upside that he is going to have is going to be obviously with the Saints because they're a playoff team already.
Yeah.
And depending on who you talk to, there are those that say the last couple of years the Saints were a quarterback away from being in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I would dispute that, but I hear people say that.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Did you happen to see there was a video? It's been circulating YouTube, and I think it was on Twitter even. A video of Jared Cook during that whole game against the Bucs. I'm talking about how Jared Cook didn't really want to win that ball game, and it shows all his drops and his just the poor route running, and some of it I think they threw in from the season too. But just some of the poor routes he ran that one of the interceptions Brees threw earlier this season was because Jared Cook ran a flat route instead of cutting sharp and cutting across the middle. It allowed a defensive back to jump the route and pick it off. And it's just talking about the problems they had with Cook. So that's why I would kind of challenge a little bit this idea that they were a quarterback away. I think that's too much listening to Brees can only throw 5 yards down the field. He can't throw it deep. That chatter that's been going on all season, and it's really irrelevant because if you look at the way this offense is built, it's designed for the short passing game.
Yeah.
It's not this offense isn't built for the deep shots. We don't have the receivers to run deep. It's not like 2011.
It's like you and I were talking about off the air. It's funny to me how a team goes from Drew can take us there to Drew's the reason we didn't get there.
Yeah,
they've got to lay it at somebody's feet, and
absolutely,
it comes with the territory. If you're the franchise quarterback, it's generally going to be laid right there at your doorstep.
I'm not saying Drew played a great game. He didn't, but he didn't. He didn't fumble the ball when you're up by 7. That was Cook.
Yeah,
he didn't get injured as far as Taysom Hill and Latavius Murray, so you had no real power running game threat. It wasn't his ankles that were bad and not being able to make sharp cuts in the routes like Michael Thomas had been doing. Michael Thomas had to have surgery after the season. There's a lot of components to it, and to blame Drew Brees alone is just it shows
ludicrous.
It just shows a poor understanding of football. It really does, because you're just hitting the easy button based on what people say on television, and not really understanding all the components that go into a game. Just like in the Minnesota game last year in the playoffs, Drew Brees didn't miss those blocks. Drew Brees didn't struggle making those blocks when they moved the tackles to the outside and the ends to the inside, and they were attacking the guard center position. That wasn't Drew Brees doing that. That was the offensive line screwing that up. So to say, hey, if we just played Jameis Winston, or to say, hey, if we got Russell Wilson and the rest of the team plays exactly the way it played, you're going to lose again.
Yeah.
Because Seattle lost that game against the Rams because their offensive line couldn't block. They lost that game because they couldn't stop the run when they needed to, like the Saints defense couldn't stop the run in 2019. They lost they lost those playoff games a lot for the same reasons that the Saints lost their playoff games the past couple of seasons. So there's just, that's not a knock on Russell Wilson. It's not anything other than just saying that it's a lot more than when you think you're one player away from the Super Bowl or one player away from making that step forward, you're going to lose every time.
Every time.
You will. I mean,
this is not a one player sport. I've never seen one player lose a game. I've never seen one player cause a team to lose. There's 11 guys out there at any given point in time in that game, and it takes all 11 doing all of their jobs. One person is not going to do that.
Right. It always comes down to a handful of plays. You can always count those plays. If this play happens a different way, a lot changes. It's a domino effect. Your play calling changes. Everything. And you go through each of those playoff losses, and I can tell you the handful of plays in every game that cost us those ball games. The Minneapolis Miracle does not happen if we can get that first down.
Yeah.
Because we get that first down, we run that clock down to nothing, kick the field goal, we're out of there. The Minnesota never sees the ball again.
Yeah.
49ers game in 2011. How many times you got to redo this? But the 49ers game in 2011, you make that stop. Harper doesn't go as deep into the end zone. He stays at the goal line, waits for the ball. You make that play, it's a different ball game.
Yep.
You don't lose Pierre Thomas in that first drive to that illegal hit. But, he gets knocked out by Dante Whitner. He doesn't go out of that game. He scores a touchdown. It's a different ball game. It's a totally different ball game. It's everything. The 2018 no call. You call that penalty the way you're supposed to. It's first down. The Niners have the Rams have one timeout left. You can run the ball now and run the clock out, kick the field goal, game over, win the Super Bowl. Always. A game we won. Tracy Porter doesn't pick off Brett Favre. And that's just an incomplete pass. They're kicking a long field goal. They may make it. We don't go to overtime. One play. So it's always it's a set of plays, a handful of plays in every game that makes the difference. Not just one player having a bad day. So anyway,
and it's always a different game in the postseason. You're not playing. You're playing a team that, just like you, got themselves to this point.
It's the finality of it all.
Yeah. During the season, you lose a game, you play next week.
Yep.
In the playoffs, you lose, you're done.
Mm-hmm. And they know that. So the intensity is ratcheted. People, are pushing harder to make the play. They're pushing harder to stop the play, momentum is huge.
Yes.
Momentum swings in a postseason game. When the momentum swings like that, the other team, you really see the difference, because that other team, they feel that pressure. So now they're pressing harder to get that momentum back, not just to make a play, but get that one big play that's going to get the momentum back for their side. And the harder they press and the harder they push, the harder sometimes it gets to make the play to turn that momentum around. So that's a difference between postseason and regular season. Regular season, it's like, okay, it happened, forget about it, move on to the next play. All you did was lose a ball game.
And you see that out of Breeze in that Buccaneers game in the playoffs this year. If we're not playing from behind and not playing poorly, some of those passes that he had picked off, he doesn't take that chance. He doesn't feel the need to risk it.
Right. Because you went in the Buccaneers game after the Cook fumble and the Bucs score a touchdown. The next series, the Saints went 5 and out. I think they got one first down. They went 5 and out, had to punt. Okay. Bucs go down the field, burn clock, kick a field goal. Now it's 23-20. It's the fourth quarter. Totally different ball game. Now you have to throw. You can't afford to go 3 and out again. You've got to start a drive. This is the series. You've got to get a drive. You've got to get points on the board, because you're running out of time. You got 7 minutes and some change left on the clock, but you've got to get points. It's a hell of a lot different than you're up by 7. It's 20-13. You're driving for points. If you're up by 10 or up by 14, that pressure's now on the Bucs to make plays. Now Trey Hendrickson can start rushing the passer, because they're going to throw it. It sends Fournette to the bench. Fournette can't run the football. The Bucs can't run the ball now. They've got to throw, because they got to get within. They're down 2 scores now. They got to get back in the game. And that's, the Saints know the routes they're going to run. They know where they're going to be. You now make Tom Brady the guy who's going to throw 3 interceptions in the ball game, not Drew Brees. So, and then we have a totally different conversation. Is Brady too old now? Instead of having Brady hoist a trophy, and at 43, talk about how he's not only just the greatest football player, the greatest athlete of all time, which is an absurd conversation.
Oh, but I think I just threw up a little bit in my mouth.
That's you don't have that conversation. Now the conversation is, is Brady too old? So, okay, that's why I'm leaning on Jameis Winston to be the future starting quarterback of the Saints. God, I'm not a Winston fan. I make no secret about that. I have a hard time wrapping my head around the Saints pinning their hopes on Jameis Winston. Only because
his body of work,
yes,
his body of work that you have to look at, it's a risk at best to think that he's going to be able to do what he's going to need to do to have success with New Orleans. It's again, that body of work that he's put together, basically it's a crapshoot. Now, I'm not saying he can't do it, but he's going to have to get out there and earn it. He's going to have to get out there and prove that he is the man to be trusted.
Every time Jared Cook caught the football this past year, I'm going, don't fumble it, hold on to the ball, don't fumble it. Every time Jameis Winston's going to drop back the pass to the Saints, I'm like, don't throw an interception, because when Drew Brees throws an interception, for me, it's unexpected. When Jameis Winston throws an interception, I'm like, yep, there it is. I knew it was going to happen. and that's the perception I have of him.
Yeah.
That's how I felt when we got Richard Todd back in 1984. Richard Todd, he went to the AFC Championship game through 5 interceptions against the Dolphins. 5 of them. I mean, you just have the feeling, and Winston's the riverboat gambler. He's gonna. That's just his personality. That's the kind of player he is. Do I take the check down or do I push the ball downfield? And at some point, his brain goes, "The hell with it. Let's take the shot. I can fit that ball in there." And he's going to take that shot in a double coverage. Guy might make an incredible catch, an unbelievable play for a touchdown. We win the ball game. Unbelievable play. That'll happen.
Yeah.
What's also going to happen is more times than not, it's going to be an interception, and you'll be like, "What the hell are you doing?" It's that. That's the kind of player he is.
Now, by no means am I going to sit here and offer that Jameis Winston cannot be the Saints quarterback, because at this point he is the Saints quarterback as it stands today.
I mean, well, he is and he isn't. He's not on the roster officially as of, when free agency starts on March 17th. He's not officially on the roster. He has to sign a new contract. He's a free agent. And teams could be competing for him because, I mean, we started the show talking about Russell Wilson. But, those teams, the Bears are looking for a quarterback. The Panthers are about to try and sell their soul to get Deshaun Watson. They want a new quarterback. The Jets, 49ers are trying to figure out how to get rid of Garoppolo. The Patriots need a quarterback. I mean, there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks in the league. And you look at the draft. Yeah, you've got, Trevor Lawrence, who's probably going to go to Jacksonville. You've got Fields from Ohio State, who may or may not go to the Jets. They may go with the kid from BYU. You got Mac Jones from Alabama hanging in there somewhere, who could go to the 49ers, could go to several teams, could go to the Patriots, could come to us. You never know how free agency plays out, and not a whole heck of a lot of quarterbacks out there in free agency that are going to be available. That's why these trades are happening. That's why Wentz went to the Colts, and he's got to take care of the fire, But so that's the fear you have. So let's just say, and Saints, of course, we've been talking about it for the past few weeks. Saints are over the cap. I have no doubt Mickey Loomis is going to restructure and extend contracts to get us under the cap and lower cap figures. But can we afford to extend or get into a bidding war for Jameis Winston? If somebody wants him bad enough and they don't think they can get Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson, what happens there? I mean, that's my concern. So just because Saints fans are like, yeah, Winston's going to come back, you don't know this. You really don't know until he signs a contract. And, you got teams that have opportunities where he can be the guy and not compete with Taysom Hill. And I know, Jerry's saying there's sure as hell ain't going to be Taysom Hill the starting quarterback. You may not have a choice. It may be possible that if Winston signs with somebody, you've got Hill. I'm going to throw a name out there. Ryan Fitzpatrick and a rookie quarterback. That may be your 3 quarterbacks. next year if Reeves retires and if they can't re-sign Winston. So, yeah, Patriots will trade down, probably so. That's just what they do. But yeah, I mean, yeah, and I hear you, Anna. Don't start on Brady. I mean, Brady, Brady. Yeah, he did it, but it wasn't him. It was definitely a defense, a running game, and catching a lot of breaks.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. Anna says Miami stuck with Tua, right? I don't know. I'm assuming they are because, I mean,
Well, you would think that, but then again, at the same time, you saw several times during the course of the season where they would bench him.
yeah, yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with. I think Tua's problem was twofold. I think number one, he was still recovering from that injury he suffered his senior year at Alabama. I think mentally he was recovering from that. And number two, he really didn't get that offseason. Now, yeah, I know what Justin Herbert did in San Diego or Los Angeles. I knew I was going to mess it up. What Justin Herbert did in Los Angeles. I mean, that was just nothing short of incredible.
It was.
But I think, though, for Tua, he just didn't get some of the coaching he probably would have needed for a kid coming into a new system and working with him, because what you saw with Fitzpatrick being in there was an experienced quarterback running that offense. What it looks like when an experienced quarterback running the offense. The Chargers had nothing to lose. Chargers was just like, go out and do what you got to do, because Tyrod Taylor is no threat to you. He's not even coming back on the thing. You just, we're not looking at making the playoffs or anything. You just do what you got to do. And I think Tua got cautious. He didn't play with that same kind of relaxed personality he seemingly played with at Alabama. That doesn't mean that he's going to be a franchise quarterback or that he's a bust. It doesn't mean anything other than I think he played how rookies typically look on a team. He has good moments and a lot of bad moments and got benched and pulled. Breeze got benched and pulled a bunch early in his career in San Diego because he let the game get to him. So, I know, but Taysom's under contract. I'm just telling you. I mean, I'm just playing it based on the fact that Taysom's under contract, Drew's under contract, Winston is not. So you have to deal with the assumption that Winston's going to come back, but you have to deal with this is the reality of what the Saints have, and you've got to do what you got to do. And I think Winston, Marcus Williams, and probably, because I think he's going to get cut, but I think probably bringing back a guy like Quan Alexander are, important moves that the Saints want to make in free agency. Those are priority moves they want to make in free agency, because I don't think Anzalone's going to come back. I don't think Trey Hendrickson's going to come back. I mean, because did you see the contract that J.J. Watt signed?
I did not. I just saw that he signed with the Cardinals. I didn't get any details.
Yeah, I think it's $31 million, but let me just make sure. J.J. Watt contract. $31 million.
Not bad for an old guy.
2 year, 30. This is for a player. This is for a guy who is 32, 31. He's almost 32. He'll be 32 in a few days.
But you paid for a name.
Yes. Oh, you paid, and I joked, Arizona, how Arizona is. It's a good place for retirees to go, so.
There's no doubt that the best days of J.J. Watt's career are behind him. He's stayed hurt a lot, and I don't mean like broken fingernails or anything like that. you're talking about season-ending injuries.
Yeah.
I just
He is.
I think you're paying for a locker room presence.
Yep, that's exactly what you're doing, and you probably get 10 good games out of him. Out of 16 games, you'll get 10 good games out of him. You'll get more if you rotate him in. You're not using him as an every down starter. So, I mean, yeah, Fitzpatrick's a free agent with the Panthers trying to get rid of
Bridgewater.
He may become a free agent, although I think the Panthers want to trade him somewhere. They want to send him somewhere.
Yeah.
So I don't think there will even be an option really for the Saints to get Teddy Bridgewater unless they make a trade, which is that'd be a rare thing in a division trade. I mean, it's happened before. It's how the Saints got Jim Everett way back when, because the Rams are just sick of him. So we got him for next to nothing. But that would be pretty odd if the Panthers traded Bridgewater back. But I mean, again, that's he's not a starter here either. The 5-0 record, it's somewhat of an illusion because most of the teams you beat didn't even make the playoffs, just like Taysom Hill this past year. He didn't beat playoff teams. So
and there too, your Bridgewater had the luxury of having a defense that was pitching no hitters too.
Right. So if you end up having to start Taysom or you bring in a guy like Bridgewater or Fitzpatrick, what you're saying then is, what this season's going to be? This is going to be a transition year away from Breeze before we find our next quarterback. This is not the successor. You're now in the Marino to Jay Fiedler, Manning to not Luck. I'm thinking about when he went to Denver.
Osweiler,
yeah. You're in that limbo land from a franchise quarterback to a guy where you're like, yeah, but we need to draft a guy. We need a guy badly.
Yeah.
You saw the Jim Everett, the Chris Everett video? Yeah. That's will always be a classic. And
I hated him.
Jim Rome?
Yes.
Yeah.
He is taking up space that could be so much better used by functional people.
I talked about this, I think, in Saints yesteryear, that fan group, which I enjoy posting a lot of stuff that I find on the internet, in YouTube and stuff. I'll throw in there. That's pretty cool. But I had a conversation with somebody in that group about, how they believe that was staged. And it probably was, because why he got the Chris Everett name? Do you know what play did it where people start questioning his manhood? You remember the Phantom Sack? Do you remember the term the Phantom Sack?
Mm-hmm.
It was in the NFC Championship game against the 49ers in 88 or 89. And Jim Everett dropped back the pass. And this was in Candlestick, I'm pretty sure. But he dropped back the pass. And on his last step, he's in a perfectly clean pocket. He just collapses in a fetal position and waits a second for somebody to touch him. There was nobody that was anywhere near him when he did it. And the Rams were never the same after that. That's why I think it was 89. But the Rams were never the same after that. They went 5-11. They lost to the Saints in 1990. They were a bad team. They weren't a playoff team anymore. And John Robertson eventually got fired from the Rams. But people started to call him, question his manhood, all politically incorrect terms now. Imagine that, California being politically incorrect back then. But calling him You are old enough to remember this. Anybody named Bruce? Remember Bruce was like the term for gay. Do you remember
Mm-hmm.
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why more useless trivia I have in my head. For those of you who watched The Incredible Hulk on NBC in the 70s and the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, the reason why Bill Bixby was called David Bruce Banner, although in the comics he was Bruce Banner, was because of that reputation of the name Bruce
Yep.
was homosexual. So they didn't want him to be perceived as a homosexual, so call him David Bruce Banner.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's weird how people used to think. It really is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Jim Everett tweet never gets old. So anyway, what better way to welcome yourself to your new team, Jim Everett I'm talking about, than go on Jim Rome's show, and Jim Rome's been running his mouth anyway, fueling that Chris Everett, because this was the era of, this is right before Jerry Springer took off, but this is the era of Morton Downey Jr., Sally Jesse Raphael. I can't believe I'm bringing up these damn names. Geraldo Rivera's talk show, when you get the Nazi skinheads and Black Panthers on stage together, and they're going to have a conversation about race. What do you think is going to happen? So there's a fight, I mean, it was that kind of bullshit, that's what daytime talk was supposed to be, So of course Springer picks up on that, everybody's going to fight, and Jerry, I can't believe I know this stuff. I really can't, but I do. Because when you're at my job back then, lunch break, those guys in the shop, put on Springer, so, you're sitting there trying to be social, eating it, and they got this crap on. I'm like going, I'm losing IQ points just watching this crap. So anyway, so yeah, so that's why I agree with people. It probably was staged because, Rome, for all his obnoxiousness, he's not going to go and insult a guy knowing that he's going to get his ass kicked. He's not going to go do that, so he's going to do it if it's part of like a wrestling thing where I'm going to push you down, you're going to slap the ground so it makes a lot of noise, and it'll be over with, and that'll be it. So what's this? Oh, John Butler. I think being grown up was Bruce. Now it's starting to make sense. There you go. Yeah, that was just a thing in the 70s. No one can explain it. It's just that was the thing, and of course all the you think about Three's Company. The show Three's Company, the running gag was, John Ritter's character is supposed to be gay, so you could have a guy living with two women, and no one would say anything. And they made the Bruce joke a few times, if I remember right, on that show. I don't know. Three's Company, it's like, let me see. Is this the one where somebody overhears somebody else's conversation and makes conclusions about it? And the whole episode involves them trying to prevent what they thought was going to happen from happening. Is that the one? You know which one I'm talking about, right? Which episode? Because that's like every single one. I'm just described every single episode of Three's Company.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Calvin, that slow, sad music and him walking down the road, that is called The Lonely Man. I actually know the name of that song, but yeah, because yeah, him hitchhiking. Yeah, it's called The Lonely Man. And there's a funny gag on Family Guy with Stewie. Somebody starts to play that on the piano. He goes, oh wait. And all of a sudden he's outside and he's got the duffel bag and he's walking with the thumb while the guy's playing The Lonely Man on piano. Yeah. I have to give Family Guy a good joke for that when Stewie doing the Poltergeist episode. He realizes his voice is echoing through the TV, and he says, "Oh, oh, let me try something. I remember. Don't worry. His voice is echoing. Then he goes, oh, yeah. I admit it. I watched Family Guy a lot in the early parts of it. Now it's just it's all the same jokes over and over again. Because at the beginning, I was just like, I can't believe they're getting away with these shows, these jokes. Yeah, exactly, Chad. Jim Everett had plenty of time to hit Rome if you wanted to. For a guy, it was all fake. Alan's digging deep with some of these random info tonight. Yes, I am. Like I said,
welcome to the off season.
I have a complete and thorough command of totally useless information. And it doesn't help them in a comic book group, so we end up talking about this kind of stuff a lot.
Our conversations lately going full retro, where we talk about the NFL Today show, and I saw just the other night that Irv Cross passed away.
Yeah, only Brent Musburger's left because Phyllis George died last year. Irv Cross just passed away. Jimmy the Greek, of course, passed away years ago. But yeah, Irv Cross. Let me get a drink here. I don't know about you, but Irv Cross was like, for me, he was the role model of sports reporters, the former athlete becoming a reporter.
Absolutely.
He was so good. I have to say, and of course it was before my time, but I don't even remember him playing. It seemed like he was just built to be a reporter.
Yeah.
His stories were great. His delivery was great. He gave the information. When you look at, I watch guys today, and I don't care if it's Fox, which I like the crew on Fox, CBS, the NBC crew, Sunday Night Football, any of those guys, nobody can hold a candle to Irv Cross and the way he, oh yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm breaking my train of thought. Look what Calvin wrote. Quagmire discovering the internet. Actually, he's discovering porn on the internet. That joke is hilarious. Have you ever seen that joke? He goes, Quagmire says, and Peter says something about porn on the internet, and Quagmire goes, the internet? What's that? And he goes, well, you get online. She says, you mean that thing that makes all that noise? What, they got porn there? Really? And then it cuts to his house. Peter's taking his trash out and goes, hey, Quagmire, I haven't seen you in a few days. What's been going on? And he's like, I've been looking at that porn on the internet. Next thing you know, he says, can you get me my mail from over there? And his freaking arm is like huge. Like he's been doing curls. It's hilarious. Yeah. So everybody's getting to hear my bad Family Guy imitations. But yeah. But you can't do the show without imitating it to an extent.
Yeah.
But anyway, going back to Irv Cross, I mean, Irv Cross knew how to tell a story. He knew how to get information out of the players, get information to the audience about everything that's going on. There is one funny blooper, though. If you get a chance, you should Google this or search for it on YouTube. It's before whatever Super Bowl it was. I think it's Super Bowl 17, might be 16. It's the Raiders. No, I'm sorry. It's the Broncos, Redskins Super Bowl. So that's much later. It's 1987. But that Super Bowl, CBS had it. No, it can't be that one because CBS had the game. So it must be the 83 one, Redskins Raiders. But anyway, Irv Cross is trying to do the report about what's going on, injuries and things like that. And here comes the grounds crew for the Super Bowl, and they're telling him to get the hell off the field, and they're cursing at him. He goes, and Irv Cross is visibly shaking. He's like, we're on the air. You can't be saying that. We're on the air, And he's like, I don't care. Get your ass off the field. You gotta go. You gotta go. And he goes, there's a lot of confusion out here, Brent. We'll get back to you later. I mean, he's totally flustered by this. So yeah, it's even when he was flustered like that, he was still the top notch professional. He was great. I loved Irv Cross.
Yeah, that crew, Phyllis George.
I was in love with George.
The one that succeeded her,
Jane Kennedy.
Jane Kennedy.
Another beautiful.
Irv Cross, Brent Musburger, all those, and then a lot of people don't realize that was where Terry Bradshaw's broadcast career began.
Oh yeah, NFL Today.
Yep.
And it's the format of NFL Today, and it was a half hour. But the format of NFL Today is the same format that all the pregame shows still do, even ESPN with their 4 hours of coverage. Because we get you to the stadium. The host is supposed to direct each sequence, okay? And that's what Brent Musburger did. He was the traffic cop. We're going to go to the Greek now. We're going to go to Irv Cross, who's got this story. You got the former athlete who does the X's and O's report. These are the injuries. These are the guys that, what's going on with the team, talk to the players. Then you had Phyllis George and Jane Kennedy, who were the human interests, the softer side of football. Let's go meet with Roger Staubach in his house with his family. Let's go talk to Joe Namath in his house. Let's go, do a 40-yard dash with Phyllis George and George Allen, that kind of stuff. It was the funny stuff she would do, And Jane Kennedy was the same thing. Jane Kennedy would do all the human interest stories. It would be more about the family and the player's personal life. And you see today on Fox and CBS, they do the same things. They're just longer now. And Jimmy the Greek with the picks, he'd break down. He was combination injury report, but the picks guy. And it was a whole thing about him doing the picks. And he would go through the team and tell you the strengths and weaknesses and why he picked the team. I mean, for people my age and your age, you remember the board on the wall with check marks.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, in the 70s, the Saints were lucky if they had a single check mark on their side. Every team they're playing checks all the way down the other side. Saints have a check by quarterback if Manning was playing, or they get a check by defensive line or whatever. That was about it. We wouldn't get much else. Definitely never got a check for coaching.
Yeah, and it was pretty accurate.
Oh yeah,
for that time too.
And I can still hear Brent Musburger. You're looking live at Three River Stadium, or you're looking live at Riverfront Stadium, Jack Murphy Stadium. Just go through the names of the places. Busch Stadium for the St. Louis Cardinals. So, it was. You don't realize. And it's nostalgia, but you don't realize how good it really was until it was gone,
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about Irv Cross passing away. It's like there would be times I'm like, man, I wish Irv Cross would be back on just once, just to hear him do his report or whatever. Real quick, one of the things I threw out there was the Saints free agents. We talked a little about Jameis Winston, of course. That's a priority free agent. We mentioned the possibility of trying to bring back Trey Hendrickson, which, given the contract that J.J. Watt just got, it made it even that much harder.
Yeah.
Can you think of some free agents the Saints must re-sign?
the deal with Winston is obvious, but I think maybe almost as important would be bringing Quan Alexander back, because we really need him partnering with Demario Davis badly.
Well, yeah. I'm gonna run through the list of names real quick, and you can just give me the yay or nay. I'm gonna skip over guys like Lil Jordan Humphreys, Cameron Tom, those kind of guys. I really want to focus on starters.
Okay.
All right. Jared Cook.
Nope. Bye. See you. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out.
All right. They released Nick Easton. Sheldon Rankins.
You could bring him back for a lighter figure, I think.
Yeah.
But that defensive line room is just really crowded right now. And
go ahead.
It's not so much a case of not playing well as it is. I would look at Rankins to this point as being more of a luxury than a necessity.
Okay. All right. Let's see. I've got people throwing up names right now too. Justin Hardy's name. We're going to talk about him in a second. All right. We'll skip over Craig Robertson because that's depth more than anything else. PJ Williams.
Oh my God.
I had to throw that one out there. I know how you feel about him. PJ isn't going. PJ is one of these guys. I'd be surprised if he signed somewhere else.
Well, I would be surprised if he's courted by anyone else, to be honest.
He's one of these guys that you can always bring in if you get injuries or you need him. But I think, you don't have to worry about PJ Williams. Here's the name I want to talk about, though. Marcus Williams.
Yeah, I think that we probably need him.
Yeah.
What's the contract situation with Malcolm Jenkins?
Malcolm Jenkins is under contract. So let's see. I'll go pull up his numbers real quick. But Malcolm Jenkins is he's much better as a roaming safety. Let's see. Are you serious? I can't find. Let's try it this way. All right. Malcolm Jenkins' contract. It's a 2-year deal, so he's in a second. That's not right. Gives you options. Okay, that's what it is. All right. He's got a 2-year deal worth $16.25 million. But it could be a 3-year deal, just depending on if they decide to release him after this year. You get a bigger hit, but you can actually release him after 2021 and only be on the hook for $4.5 million. And you gain $5.5 million cap savings. So you're keeping Jenkins around one more year, just one more year.
I think Marcus Williams will probably be one of those, like, what was his name? The one that we lost to.
You're talking about Bell?
Yeah, Von Bell.
Von Bell.
He'll probably be in a situation where he can entertain talk with others just to see what the market on him will be.
To me, more so than Winston, I think Marcus Williams is probably the most important free agent on the defensive side that they have to re-sign. I just feel like they have nothing to replace him with. You're not going to be able to match that production with a cheap free agent, a rookie, or an undrafted free agent. I just think he's that critical to bring him back. I mean, I know people get frustrated with him. You think about the plays he messes up on such as a Minneapolis Miracle, the face mask against the 49ers and that kind of stuff. But at the same time, he really takes care of your back end and your defense. He makes turnover. I mean, he makes interceptions. I just think Marcus Williams is important. Can't get rid of Pete, Jerry. Pete's got to be here at least another year. He's got too big of a contract hit if you let him go. So Pete's got at least another year. I know a lot of people want to get rid of Pete, but you let Easton go because you're worried Easton's going to be have to retire because of concussions. But unless you get somebody you can draft to replace Pete, it's the contract is just it's not. You don't save enough money yet to get to release him. Okay, Justin Hardy. I know St. John Butler wants to keep him. That's a special teams guy, and I think you can keep him fairly cheaply. All right, we're going to skip a couple guys. We talked about Winston already. DJ Swearinger. Okay, so that's a cheap free safety. He's 30 years old, so he's 4 years younger than Jenkins. He is considered depth behind Marcus Williams. Do you bring back DJ Swearinger?
Well, his body of work, you didn't really get to see a lot of him this year.
I think it's one of those veteran guys you kept. I think unless you sign him for like would you sign Noah Spence for like $1 million, you're not signing him for a contract busting. A cap busting contract. You only sign him for a year or so. You might bring him back like you bring back PJ. Ty Montgomery, I think, falls kind of in that same category. Ty Montgomery, he's 28 years old. He's a receiver / running back. You probably can get somebody cheaper in the draft, but if you don't, that's your fallback option to me.
Yeah, agreed.
Michael Burton, it's hard for me to. I wasn't that impressed with Michael Burton. I'll be honest with you. Compared to the guy he replaced, Zach Line, I didn't feel like he really made those killing, crushing blocks that Zach Line made. I tell you, the guy who I'd love to have is I'd love to get the guy from the 49ers. Number 44. I can't think of his name right now.
It's something real complicated.
Tom Rathman keeps coming to my mind. It's not Tom Rathman.
No. But I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. It's just he's just one of those guys that I think we can upgrade from fullback. I'd love to get that. I'd love to get the 49ers fullback. I don't think we can afford him because,
they're not letting him go anywhere.
No. I just feel like you can it's one of these guys that you can bring back, but I'd like to bring some competition for this guy. Yeah. Ingram, that's a possibility. You could always bring back Mark Ingram, but Mark Ingram is that's more competition for Latavius Murray than Ty Montgomery. But
I would love to see Ingram come back so that he can go ahead and get that franchise record.
Oh yeah,
I think he's earned it.
All right, James Hurst. That's a possibility. You could bring him back. That's depth on as your offensive tackle, your third tackle. We talked about a little bit about Trey Hendrickson. I just think we can't afford him. I think his contract, somebody's going to overpay for him, and I think he's just a specialist. I really don't think he's very good at stopping the run or handling the edge as a 3-down lineman. I think he's just somebody who gets a lot of sacks because he's figured out how to get the bend. That bend around the edge, So the last person I want to talk about is Alex Anzalone. How do you feel about Alex?
my first response on Anzalone is going to be his injuries. They've they've kept him out as much as he's avoided them and stayed in. I wouldn't have a problem with bringing him back.
Quan Alexander's shown what happens when you have a much faster, much better in coverage linebacker than Alexander's alone. I think Alex, he got exposed in that Buccaneers game. He had a hard time just moving sideline to sideline compared to a guy like, there we go. That's the guy's name. Justic, I think is how you say his name for the 49ers. Yeah, I remember.
Uzchek.
Thank you. Uzchek. Rathman. Oh man, that dude.
God.
Yeah, that was a Saints killer. But yeah, I mean, I would love to get him because he would be a younger, tougher, like a Mike Carney tough, but plays more like Heath Evans as far as pass catching and running ability, kind of fullback. I think he would be a great addition because he gives the Saints so many options. You could have him as a single back and put Kamara into as as a receiver. You can have Kamara as a receiver, as a single back, and have him line up like in a power eye, then go down to the tight end position and run a tight end route or wheel route. You can get him. That's just how good he's a good balance of the two. I just think Anzalone, unless no one shows any interest in him, he's not coming back. Because if he does come back, he's going to be taking Craig Robertson's spot on the team as a special teams guy and a depth linebacker, because I think they really like Quan Alexander. I think it's time to promote Bond, the running back, the linebacker they drafted last year. I think a full season in the system, he's ready to take the next step.
And don't forget now, in terms of Quan Alexander, he won't be available at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
He's going to be a maybe best case scenario, maybe halfway through the season before he's going to be able to come back from that ruptured Achilles.
Yeah, because you think about even what's his name, Sheldon Rankins, who we talked about earlier, when he came back from his Achilles surgery, it was about 7 weeks into the season before he was able to play, and he injured his Achilles in January. So, you might be lucky to get Quan to play early in September, probably closer to October.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does like that pass in the fly. He loves that. He loves that little out route to the fullback, and he loves the wheel route to the fullback. That's why I would love to get that guy from the 49ers. But, some people throwing some names out. Kyle Rudolph got released from the
Vikings.
Now he's 30 years old. And, of course, the Vikings drafted the son of former Saint Irv Smith Jr., who played at Brother Martin, I believe. I believe he was at Brother Martin, but he went to Alabama. And, of course, he's now going to be the starting tight end for the Vikings. Kyle Rudolph is a possibility as a tight end. Somebody put Tyler Effort. That guy, he just can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
I would rather, if I'm going to sign a veteran, to compete with Adam Trautman, I'm going to sign a guy like Rudolph.
Yeah.
You're not going to get the kid from Florida, who I love, the tight end from Florida. You're not going to get him. We're just drafting way too low. So I think if you could bring in a Rudolph to replace Jared Cook, you're younger. He's more like a Ben Watson kind of tight end. You know, he can catch a few passes for you. Good in the red zone. He's not, you know, the problem we always have with any tight end we bring in, they want to immediately compare him to Jimmy Graham. You got to stop doing that. Jimmy Graham was a once in a lifetime kind of player with us because the offense at that time was geared for a tight end like that.
Yeah.
You know, you need to start looking at tight ends now for the Saints, catching about 40 to 50 passes for about 500 yards roughly and 6 touchdowns, something like that. I mean, that's realistic now for a tight end for the Saints offense. Plus, with Rudolph, a veteran tight end, you get the experience in there. And if you have to go with a guy like Winston or Hill, it's somebody that you know can catch the football and help your struggling quarterback out. Okay, they're throwing some names. Yeah, Tyler Dunn. Yeah, you're right. Kyle Pitts looking scary. Yes, he does all the time. You know, that's him and the Alabama receivers are like on my fantasy list. Those are my guys I got circled. Any one of those guys starts sliding down the draft board, I'm like, please, Saints, please. You know, safety man o'clock, and then one of those guys and be saying that name over and over and over. It's like I'm gonna be like doing Bloody Mary in the bathroom. You know, I'm be saying that name over and over. Candyman. You know, whatever it takes. Get that player
All right.
in the team. Yep, I know. You got to go make the donuts.
Got to make the donuts.
Yeah. Thank you guys for sticking with us tonight and going through my my long, useless history of completely useless trivia. But hey, like Sean says, the off season. That's the kind of stuff we talk about. Free agency starts 2 weeks from tomorrow, the 17th. So real quick, I know we're getting ready to go, but I read this, and this actually makes sense. The Saints signed Drew Brees on March 14th of 2006. March 14th this year is a Sunday. But some people are speculating that to do the whole Lion King Circle of Life thing, Drew Brees may announce his retirement the weekend of the 14th to show that, hey, I stayed here my full time. You know, I was here 15 years ago giving this speech. I did all these things, and it's time for me to go. Yeah. I knew Calvin would like that one, Candyman. Anyway, thank you guys for Sean's going to look up Quagmire discovers the internet on YouTube. You ought to. Anyway, Sean, real quick, how can pay the bills? How can they find us? Other than
you can follow us on Facebook on the Under the Dome podcast page. You can find us on Twitter by these tags that are below our majestic faces.
It's like the claw. You know, when you go get an animal, go get a stuffed animal. Here we go.
And you can find us right here every Tuesday night.
My dogs are just pacing in front of this door. I'm in my front room tonight, and they're just pacing in front of the door, waiting for me to get out of here because they know they can't come in. They're not supposed to come in, so they just keep looking in the glass. Is he done yet? So, anyway, that's my dogs for you. So I expect if Drew Brees announces his retirement, I think it's going to happen that weekend. So we'll get it right before the show comes on. Free agency starts the next day, so it's 2 weeks from now. In the meantime, we'll have one more fun show like this, and then it's on to how the Saints are getting into the cap and get into free agency. And then before you know it, I ordered my draft guide from Mike Detillier. My draft guide, I just placed that order yesterday, so I'll have that, and we'll talk about the draft. And until then, thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next time on Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.